Hello. Welcome to This Week in Politics. If you read the intro to this week's program, you will notice that we talked about or wrote about Little Red Riding Hood. And I wanted to explain what Little Red Riding Hood is about. One of the stories I want to talk about today is Facebook, or social media specifically. And I had this idea a while back when they started a couple of years ago when they were talking about fake media. And I thought, okay, they're going to deal in algorithms, and the way those algorithms work is they pick out keywords and phrases. Now, these programs, some of them go over an hour long, so I know that nobody is sitting in Facebook or Google and listening to this entire program. That's not happening, and I know that. But what they are doing is they're going by the title and by the description of what's in the program. So I had this idea that if they were going to start pulling words out to flag conservatives and Christians and Republicans, then we needed to come up with a code. Something where all conservatives would know that if we said Little Red Riding Hood, we were going to be talking about social media. Or if we talked about the quick brown fox jumped over the fence, we would be talking about the Democratic Party. Some type of a code where we would understand and we would be able to bypass the algorithms that they're putting on. Because let's face it, the only way they can possibly monitor is by written words. Because if you think about the millions of hours of videos put up on YouTube and the tens of millions of posts put on Facebook, there's no way they can monitor those. They're having to pull out from titles and descriptions things that they want to flag. So anyway, I had this idea for a while, and now I want to tell you a story about why I decided this week. Last week, if you saw the program, you probably didn't. But last week, we did a program, and I talked about the current state of the Democratic Party and their party stands, what they believe in, how they believe. It was a pretty in-depth program. So I posted it on Facebook. So far, so good. I'll get to that in a minute. And then I decided I wanted to boost it. So I boosted it. They rejected it. Facebook rejected the boost. And they said that I would have to modify it. You know, I was going to do this story second. Let me rearrange my stuff here. And I wondered, well, so I wrote them back. And I said, well, what standards did I not follow? Why is this being rejected? And I wrote them a big long thing. And they wrote back, and this is the phrase that they gave me, that I was not authorized for ads with political content. Okay. Did you know that if you wanted to post anything on Facebook that you had to register to give political content? I wonder if I posted pornography on Facebook, do you think I would have to be authorized to have ads for sexual content? I don't think so. What about if I wanted to talk about religious content or biblical content? Do you think I would have to be authorized for ads with biblical content? I know that's not true. because I've got a Facebook account that we do just that. And I boost those accounts all the time. Now, the reason they have let me go and not eliminated my account or the post that I posted last week is this, and I've been saying this for a while. My account has been shadow banned for quite a while, and the numbers are obvious. Now, last week was the first week that I had this particular thing happen, and I'm going to go through the process here. I'm going to tell you exactly what they did. At the end of the week, it was announced that I think it was 12 social media sites, or maybe it was 6. I don't, but the 3 big ones plus a couple other ones were meeting together to discuss how they could control fake news. That's code for shut the Christians and the conservatives and the Republicans down, and let's just have liberal conversations and content. That's what that means. So I got really aggravated because, well, first off, I wonder if every other person on Facebook that discusses political content is registered with Facebook, and if so, why did you register? You know what I felt like when I read that? I felt like a Jew in Nazi Germany. Because if you read your history, you will find that before Hitler exterminated the Jews, he made them register. And when they registered, they wore a yellow star on their arm sleeve, on their arm, or on their jacket on the outside so that everybody that saw them could tell they were a Jew. Facebook wants me to register. Now, it could be something. Now, I can't even think of any reason why they would do that, any logical reason. Why do you need me to register to talk about politics? What do I live in China? I can envision very easily that for all of those accounts that are registering, and I'm gonna go through the process and tell you what information they wanted. Because as soon as I read that, before I went through the process, I thought, oh man, this is dangerous and bad. Let's fast forward 2 or 3 years. What if they manage to shut us all down? Now they've got information where they can have somebody come to my residence. They could do a lot of nasty things. So when I got that notification, I did not register. I was aggravated. I was mad. I shot him off another letter and I got no response. And in that letter, I asked them why I had to register and what was the purpose of it, and blah, blah, blah. No response. So I thought about it for a couple days. I thought, before I go on and talk about this, I probably need to go through the process so I can understand it. And then at the last minute, I'll back out. But I want to see what they wanted. So I got on there and I was going through the process of registering my account so that I could talk about political content. Okay. Now keep that in mind. I'm registering my account called This Week in Politics so I can talk about politics. Does that sound like China to you? Unbelievable. So I went through the process. First thing it said is verify your account by giving us your password. And I thought, okay, I could do that. I mean, they've already got my password stored online. So, okay. So I typed in the password. And that was all that was on the screen. And you couldn't go any further till you gave the password. So I gave the password, hit click, went to the next page, and it said, okay, you need to go through the following information to register your account. All fields need to be filled in. They wanted 2 forms of authentication for my account, which means if I had gotten in there, they were going to put 2 more roadblocks in for me to authorize myself to get into my account. Now, would you like to know what those 2 authorizations were? My US mailing address, and they wanted my ID and the last 4 digits of my Social Security number. Are you kidding me right now? The only ID they would accept was a US passport, a driver's license, or state ID. Okay, let me explain to you how wrong this is. If I want to have an account boosted on Facebook, I have to give all of this information. And each one of these forms of ID are picture IDs. Okay? Just to have an account so I can just talk about politics. But when it comes time to go vote, these same people are against voter ID. So there has to be a reason why they want picture IDs and my mailing address just to have an account to talk about politics. At that point, I backed out and I wrote it all down so that I would not forget it and get it wrong. I wrote it all down. My account has been shadow banned, I know, for about a year. It's gone through 2 or 3 different steps where it went from none to some, and then they recently did it again. Now I think it's really, really shadow banned. I have close to 4,000 friends and followers on Facebook, and I see the same faces every day. There's probably, I don't know, 20 or 30 that consistently see me and my stuff. The other 3,000, why am I even bothering? And I tell you what I thought about doing. I thought about, what if I were a company and they were doing this to me, I would hire somebody to go out and do nothing but set up Facebook accounts and get 25 people on my Facebook account and go open another one. And I'd spend my whole time doing that. And then when I did an upload, I'd have somebody else follow along and upload to every one of those accounts. That would bypass their algorithms. But now I have an account, and that account has been in existence for years, and I have close to 4,000 followers, which I cultivated quite a lot, actually. And now it's worthless. All the time and effort that I spent on that is now worthless. Here's another thing I noticed. When I put my posts on, and I do 3 or 4 different programs, okay? And when I put those on my account, people go through and like it. And if they like it, and they're not friends or followers, I hit invite. That helps build my clientele, okay? I think everybody does that. This week, for the first time, I had likes. I mean, there was no likes, okay? Now, it wasn't because people didn't like my stuff. Up until this week, I had the same people liking my stuff. You might call them groupies. They consistently like what I do. Starting this week, there was no likes, no comments, no nothing. So I went back, and it was last week, and every week before that, it's fine. This week, nothing. Not just on this show, but on all the shows. Do you know what the odds are of putting 4 different programs on Facebook and not getting 1 like? Impossible. That has never happened. And it happens the same week that I have to register to talk about political content. And here's another question I have. I'm just a little guy. I have no clout. I am nobody. I'm a nobody, and they're doing this to me. Do you think they went on Jesse Jackson's account and told him that he had to register to talk about political content? What about Chuck Schumer? You think they went on his account and told him he had to register? I doubt it. I'll bet they asked Fox News, but I'll bet they didn't ask CNN. This is wrong. This whole concept is wrong. We have to register to talk about politics. Now, I did a little bit of checking, and evidently, companies are not required to honor the Constitution, the First Amendment, freedom of speech. They are not required to honor that, which is amazing to me. The government is the one that is required to honor that. Now, for the last year and a half, I have been telling you that the government and these social medias were working together to get the conservatives regulated on social media. This proves it. Everything I have said was going to happen happened this week, and it's going to get worse. Now, just in the last 2 weeks, I'm going to go down a list here, and I'm going to just show you the programs that we know of. And I did not pick these based on politics or anything else. I picked these based on just information available. There is a musician, I can't remember his name, but he had 2 accounts on YouTube, and he had sites on other accounts on other sites, including Facebook. He was a songwriter, and I guess on YouTube you can have a songwriter's account and an individual account. He had both. And he wrote a song called "I Love Your President," and Laura Ingalls, Laura Ingraham, played it on her program this last week. It's a good song, and he talks about uh, liking President Trump. His account was not. He wasn't shadow banned. They shut his accounts down. His accounts were eliminated. All 3 formats: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. They shut him down completely. And he's written all kinds of songs. He's had his accounts for years, and they shut him down because he wrote a song called "I Love Your President," and it was talking about President Trump. That's unbelievable. How do they get away with doing that? That is blatant. Prager University. Prager has been on the internet for a long time. I get their stuff on my feed, and they do videos. They are a conservative website, and it came out. They went public with the fact that they knew they were being shadow banned, and they knew it from the numbers. They keep their own numbers just like I do, and they knew that they were. This week, they went through. Facebook went through and eliminated. I think it was 3 of their videos, and continued to shadow ban. When Prager University came out and made it public, Facebook apologized and said it was a mistake. But they didn't reinstate, and they're still shadow banning. I have an account on Facebook called the Right Wing Reverend. On that website is where I post the 3 or 4 programs that I do. That is the account I was talking about earlier. I post this program on the Right Wing Reverend website. I have been shadow banned now for a year to a year and a half that I know of, and I've been asked to register my account, and I have had one program that was banned by them, and the title of that program was Marriage It Ain't. And in that program, we discussed the illegality and the ungodliness of homosexual marriage. And that title comes from God's viewpoint of homosexual marriage. From God's viewpoint, marriage, it ain't. Two weeks ago, and I said at the time that this was going to be a test case for Facebook and Google and Twitter. They went through, they eliminated to various degrees InfoWars. And the guy that leads InfoWars, his name is Alex Jones. They have eliminated some of his stuff. In some instances, they've eliminated his accounts. iTunes has eliminated his app. If you dig around, you can still find some of his stuff, but they've made it hard. And they have shadow banned him for sure. And they have gone through and eliminated some of his programs on 6 different formats. And I don't have them in front of me. I discussed this last week on the program nobody watched. All in the same day. 6 different formats. No, it was 2 days. 6 different formats. Various degrees on the same account. Now, up until this point, it hadn't been done. But InfoWars has had about 2.5 million followers. And all 6 social websites, to varying degrees, went from shadow banning to eliminating programs to eliminating his accounts. That is a coordinated effort to shut down one account that had 2.5 million followers. And the social media did that, trying to gauge the fallout. And I said at the time, if Alex Jones does not sue, we will soon see more happening. And the next week, because he did an interview somewhere, Alex Jones did, and he said, I don't know how to fight this. The answer is take him to court. Now, it may be true that companies do not have to honor the Second Amendment. But I think taking them to court would serve a couple of purposes. Number one, it would make it a huge public outcry, and these social media sites would be on the defensive every day instead of coming out on the offensive and eliminating our viewpoint. Secondly, when that was done, the primary source of conversation was face-to-face. We didn't have social websites where you could shut down communication. You know, one of the things that we have, and I'm not an attorney, but we do have a right to congregate. You know, there are countries where you can't have more than 3 people talking at the same time. But we have the constitutional right to get together. Now, excuse me, but social websites is exactly that. Americans getting together to talk. Now, it may be in a different standpoint, and it may be in bigger groups that you don't like, but we have the right to do that. The company's rights do not override our constitutional rights. Now, we can split hairs and talk about who gives us, you know, the Constitution says we have God-given rights. Do you think a court is going to say that our God-given rights are less important than a company's right. And I don't even think it's a company right. The rights are not, and the Constitution is not talking about who gives the rights. The Constitution talks about who receives the rights. We, the people, receive the rights. It does not, the Constitution does not say you have the right to freedom of speech from nobody else except your government. It doesn't say that. They have been interpreting it that way, and I think it's time that we take this to court and fight this, not only on the grounds of the First Amendment, but also on the rights of the freedom to congregate. If you are a left-winger, and everybody on social medias, they are all left-wing. All the owners of the social websites are all uber left-wing, okay? If you're a left-winger, what do you consider hate speech? Any talks about homosexuality, any conversation about abortion, any talk about the party that you favor, any talk about conservatism, Republicans, Christianity. You know, it's interesting. If I wanted to go on Facebook and I wanted to sing the praises of Allah and the Quran, I could quote that all day long and they would love it. Nothing would happen. But I get on there and I talk about homosexuality and from a Christian standpoint, and all hell breaks loose. That's wrong. I think that that is not only controlling my speech, but that is controlling the public discourse. What gives a half a dozen individuals the right to control the whole world's discourse on any subject at all? And by those half a dozen people, I mean the leaders of the groups, Zuckerberg being first and foremost among them. Now, there was one other account I wanted to tell you about. There is a conservative talk show host in Tennessee by the name of Phil Valentine. Great show, great guy. I love his program. Listen to it every day. And he had been talking about bits and pieces about being shadow banned. And he says, well, if I'm going to be shadow banned, I just won't contribute anything, which is exactly what I think. But now I've changed my mind. I've decided whether it's my decision to play their game or not. It is going to be their decision ultimately who listens to my product. But that does not mean I'm going to stop giving my product. But anyway, he sent something out, and I don't remember the specifics. But he went around and he checked some of his followers to see if they were getting it on their feed, and they weren't. He's got a whole lot of people on his stuff too, and he would post stuff and nobody was getting it. Nobody was responding. So he went through and checked, and sure enough, he's being shadow banned to a huge degree. So I've been thinking, and I was watching a program the other day. Another great conservative talk show guy, Herman Cain was his name, is his name. He's got a great program. It's Monday through Friday. So anyway, I follow his account, and every day I watch him. But anyway, he gave me a great idea. His program, he recently started doing a Facebook Live for his program, and he talks about conservative ideas. And he said, if they eliminate my account or shadow ban me or anything else, it doesn't matter. All you have to do is go to herbertcain.com. And I thought, what a great idea. Instead of spending my money to have people watch my programs, because all of the programs that I do are on my website, the way I'm going to fight their algorithm is I'm going to start spending money pushing my website. Now, the fallout from that is they could probably use that algorithm to deter people from going to my website. But how is that? How could you do that? Why would you do that? that first off, it doesn't fall under anybody's purview. It's not part of Facebook. It's not part of Google. So I'll just push my website, and then I will direct everybody. If you'd like to hear my stuff, go to my website. And there's a I don't know if you've ever been to our website. It's prayerboxministry.org. We've got years of material over there and stuff from the Bible. It's an interactive website. There's a lot to do over there. You could spend days and days and days and still not listen to all the stuff or watch it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop boosting stuff, and I'm just going to spend my money pushing my website, because between now and whenever they become officially getting rid of conservative voices, I'm going to push my website. I can envision the time when my account will be shut down. I can envision that. So today, the title Little Red Riding Hood was an experiment to see that because on this program, what I'm going to do is it's going to be recorded, and then I'm going to link it to my Facebook account. And then I'm going to request to boost it. And we'll see what happens. I think, depending on how this experiment goes, the next one I'm going to do is I'm going to do a Facebook Live account and see what happens with that. And I may, if they allow me to boost that, or I can get wider viewership doing that, I'll just shut this account off and do Facebook Live if I can link it to my site. So anyway, that was to bring you up to date on what's been going on with social media and my account and what we should do. So those of you that are conservatives, Christians, Republicans, or any of the hate categories that the left thinks we are, do not spend your money boosting these accounts. If you want to spend your money, push your website. But again, just like any other business, the best way to get to these guys is to not give them your money. That guy that I was telling you about that wrote that song "I Love Your President," he said he's a poor guy. He's a laborer, but he wants to get his song out. So he spent $400 to boost that account. They kept the money and then banned his account. Don't give him the money. And somehow or other, now what Herbert Kane does is he's got a sign that you can see right behind his head on screen, and it's got his website. And I'm going to do something like that. I haven't decided how I'm going to do that. Maybe I can figure out a way to put it right here on my screen so it's there the whole time. Prayerboxministry.org. I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet, but we're going to do something. We cannot allow this to stand. We can't allow it to happen. The quickest way to get under their skin is don't spend your money boosting your stuff. Take your money, cut that, whatever you're spending to boost your account, take half of that and put it back in your pocket. Take the other half and start boosting your website. They can't control your website yet. All right. So I want to, there was an article in the paper, and this really irritated me, and I want to go through this. The title of the article, and I got it out of the Wall Street Journal this last week. I didn't keep the date on it, but it's called "A Better Way to Regulate Social Media" was the headline. Okay. Now, this is what got my attention from this article in the first place. Now think about the title, "A Better Way to Regulate Social Media." The article assumes that social media is going to be regulated. Who decided that? I didn't decide to have social media regulated. Before social media, was there fake news? Yeah. How did we determine what to do with fake news. We all have a brain, and we all decided on our own if it was fake or not. We decided for ourselves. Nobody decided for us. We decided in the Watergate era, we decided which one of those newspaper articles was fake or phony, or if it was a conspiracy. We made our decisions as we went. We didn't have Mark Zuckerberg determining what I could and couldn't see. How can I make right decisions if I don't hear all ends of the spectrum? They don't want you making right choices. They want you making their choices. And that's why they're regulating it. And this article is designed to entrench the idea in your mind that social media needs to be regulated. It does not. You don't have to be a fan of conspiracy theories to worry about the precedent Apple, YouTube, and Facebook set by banning Alex Jones and InfoWars. Mr. Jones complained that it was like something out of 1984, and he's right, as he does not know how to rebut Facebook's decision. The company does not divulge how it makes these decisions for fear that users would deliberately push boundaries. Well, duh, they're deliberately pushing boundaries. What makes their right more important than my right? Mr. Jones isn't alone in being concerned with the seemingly authoritarian power of tech giants to decide what gets removed in an opaque content moderation process. As de facto arbiters of speech and access to audiences, companies with such consolidated publishing power have unique responsibilities to be transparent with the public. They do not want to be transparent. Instead of making decisions in private isolation, companies would do better by engaging one another and their users to shape content moderation policies in a more transparent and consistent way. So now we've gone from, did you see how this article flowed? It went from stating the conservative point of view and transitioned into accepting that it's going to be regulated. And now let's tell you how it's going to be regulated. And the article goes on. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but the basic constructs that the Wall Street Journal is multi-stakeholderism is the word it gets. But one of the things, because it simply calls for government regulation or self-regulation, are not enough. The public wants input. Such a body should not be legally binding authority, but an arena for transparent coordination, public representation, and human engagement in an industry dominated by algorithms and machines. Companies want feedback. Government wants more insight into decision making, and people want to be heard. None of that is true. The social media sites do not want feedback. They don't give two craps about what you want. They want what they want, and they're willing to take the financial hit to do that. So I'm going to give them the financial hit, and I hope you will too. Government does not want more insight into decision making. They don't give a crud how the decisions are made. All they want is the conservative shut down. And people want to be heard. That part is true. Unfortunately, the people that want to be heard are the conservatives, because the liberals, they know their voice is going to be heard because those websites are owned by liberals. So the ones that want to be heard are the conservatives, and these other two entities don't care. So this article, the whole concept of this, so in their fantasy world, somehow we're going to have this board where the Zuckerberg and the leader of Google and Twitter and LinkedIn and all of those are going to be on one side of the table, and then government officials are going to be on the other end, and then opposite them is going to be representatives from the public. In their fantasy world, that's how that's going to work. And each decision that comes up, they're going to discuss and have input. That will never, ever work. As I said earlier, there are millions of hours of video and content put on every day around the world. There's no possible way that's going to happen. That is not workable. and the people that they have involved. First off, nobody, let me say this again, nobody should have any input to what I put on the site. And here's why. If you don't like it, don't watch it. Go to another channel. But if you like my program, why does Facebook have the right to say that you can't watch? Why do they have that right? In the very near future, the programs that I've talked to you about, they're not going to be available. I said earlier, I can envision my site getting eliminated. I can envision Herbert Kane. His account's going to be shut down. InfoWars has already been shut down. Phil Valentine will. And if Rush Limbaugh's on Facebook, he will be eliminated too, or shadow banned. That'll happen. I guess my main point that I want to say, do not accept the premise that social media sites need to be regulated. That is a straw man they have set up so that they can institute regulation on social media. Regulation is code, by the way, to shut the conservatives up, to shut the Christians up. That's what regulation means. They're not going to regulate sexual content. They are not going to regulate Islam or Muslims. They're not going to regulate Planned Parenthood. They're not going to regulate any of that. But if I want to talk about politics, because the name of my account is Right Wing Reverend or This Week in Politics, if I want to discuss that, I got to register. And when I register, I got to give them my mailing address, a picture ID, my password, and something else. Are you kidding? Please, people, do not accept this premise that they are trying to feed you that you have to, that social media needs to be regulated. It does not need to. It should not. This is wrong. This is the Jews being registered by Nazi Germany in the 30s. This is wrong. And we need to stand up and say it's wrong. We're going to wake up in the very near future and we will not have a voice to be heard. As a conservative, 99% of the conservatives are already shut out of newspapers, magazines, radio, TV, periodicals. You doubt me? If you are a professional writer and you write about conservative issues and you send your stuff to the newspaper, you're not going to get published. If you're a reporter and you have conservative values and you want to go get a job at ESPN, that's not going to happen. There's been countless stories. When they find out that you're a conservative or a Christian, you get fired, you get blackballed, you get blacklisted, you won't work. Social media is the last frontier for us to have a voice. And they're working rapidly and quickly to shut us out of there. One of the main reasons that Trump got elected is because we as a collective entity discussed it with ourselves on social media and communicated with each other that we have the power if we go out there and do that. And we did. And the election coming up, ask yourself this: why do you think these social medias are doing this right now? There's a reason. There is a reason. And it's not a coincidence. They're not going to get us all by this election cycle. They want to shut down. They've shut down a big dog, and now they're nibbling on the edge. And it'll be a constant drip, 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 drip up through the midterms. Okay, after the midterms, if I'm right, after the midterms, they're going to go full bore, and they're going to so that by the election cycle for 2020, 90% of us will be shut out of the game. So we've got about 2 years that we can do something and push our websites so that the social websites become irrelevant. But we got to start now. They've got a 2-year jump on us. And by the way, while I'm at it, I want to push a website or a social site that is priding itself on freedom of speech. It's called MeWe. MEWE. There is no filters, nothing on over there, and that's owned by an individual. And his whole thing is freedom of speech. I am on there. Go over there and friend me, and we'll at least have one place. It doesn't have a lot of viewers right now, but it'll happen. The more conservatives get shut out of the main sites, they're going to find one where we can discuss, and MeWe will be the one that they're going to go to. So, all right. Please, 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 please. First off, don't. So what can we do? Don't boost your sites on any of these. Don't boost your programs on any of these sites. Don't give them your money. Take half of the money and put it in your pocket, and the other half that you would normally spend, find a way to push your website, not your social media site. Have people go to your website. They cannot control the content on your website. Join MeWe and be loud and be proud. Don't sit back and try to be the silent majority, because they've got a 2-year jump on us and they're going to be aggressive. They came out of the chute aggressive, going after InfoWars, and now it's going to be a constant drip, 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 drip until after the midterms, and then it's going to be hot and heavy, because their goal is to shut us out of the 2020 election. Zuckerberg's goal, I believe, is he wants to run for president in 2020. So he has to control his things that he can control. And bad-mouthing him on his own website is the first thing he's going to try to control, which means getting rid of all the conservatives, the Tea Party, the Christians, and the right wing. They've all got to be shut up in order for Zuckerberg to have a chance on his website. But between now and the time that happens, we have got to find a way to have our voice heard and not be shut out. All right. The last story I want to talk about is this week, 2 people that were associated with Donald Trump had their day in court and decisions were rendered. The first one was Paul Manafort. He was tried on 18 different counts. Most of it had to do with tax evasion and working overseas. He was convicted of 8 of the 18, which means 10 of them he was found not guilty. Now, the same vitriolity, the same hate that is going from the social media sites to the conservatives went from the Mueller investigation to Paul Manafort. Now, most people don't know this, but Paul Manafort, now think about this. This guy is in his 60s, I believe, 50s or 60s. And he's convicted of income tax, or indicted on income tax evasion, and he has been held in jail without bond for the last 6 months. And that's not the worst part of it. He's been held in solitary confinement for 23 hours a day for the last 6 months for income tax evasion. Good Lord. Now, we know the reason why. Mueller doesn't care about the income tax evasion. He doesn't care about putting him in solitary confinement. What he cares about is getting garbage on Trump, and he's willing to do whatever it takes. So he's taken this guy to court. He's ruined his life, ruined his reputation, cost him millions of dollars, abused him mentally, and Manafort's still not talking. Next month, Manafort faces war charges and another Democratic. Now, the first one was held in Virginia, Northern Virginia, which is all Democrat. Those are all DC people. The next one goes to the District of Columbia, and they're all Democrats there. Manafort is a Republican. This is stacked against him on purpose, and they're mistreating him on purpose. Can you imagine if it had been a black guy, a black liberal, and they were holding him in solitary confinement 23 hours a day for the last 6 months for income tax evasion? Can you imagine what would be happening? The ACLU would be filing lawsuits. The liberals would be yelling and screaming every day in the newspaper. There would be violence against the white man. The blacks would be rioting in the streets. But because this guy is a white conservative, nobody cares. The press isn't going to talk about it. That's probably why you don't know it. They're not publishing it. The radio isn't talking about it. The TV isn't talking about it. The newspaper's not talking about it. The politicians aren't talking about it. Nobody's talking about it. But if it was a black guy, it would be completely the opposite. Everybody would be talking about nothing else. That's wrong. The interesting thing about the charges against Manafort, they all occurred years before he even knew Trump. Now remember, the Mueller investigation, first off, it's a phony investigation. And it was started on lies, which, in my opinion, screams of fruit from the poison tree. But that's a battle to be fought at another time, evidently. I hope that when the whole Mueller thing is finally done, whenever that is, that he goes back and pardons, Trump goes back and pardons Manafort, and then Manafort sues the government for legal costs. I hope that's what happens. Now, I said there was 2 people associated with Trump that had their day in court. The other one was his ex-attorney, Cohen. Now, Cohen is an attorney, okay? He was Donald Trump's personal attorney for years. Again, the vitriolity, the hatred, the trampling of a conservative's rights mean nothing to these people. You know what they did to Cohen? They had a coordinated attack on his office, his homes, his family. They went in, gathered up everything they could. Now think about that. An attorney has client privileges. So all of Cohen's clients, including Trump, all of their files, all of their information, their names, their cases, the private information that's in there, the secret stuff that had been done on their behalf was right now in the government's hands. That is wrong. But nobody seems to be crying about it. Again, what if that was a black liberal attorney? The standard would be completely different. Now, Cohen pled guilty. And here's the interesting thing. They had charges against Cohen. The things he pled guilty to aren't even crimes. They may be unethical, but they were not crimes. I don't have the list in front of me, but he pled guilty to the things that weren't crimes, and the things that were crimes, they worked out in the plea that they're not going to push that. So Mueller thinks he's going to get Cohen to turn on Trump. And it has something to do with paying off a couple of females. All right. Again, even if Trump did it, even if he wrote the check out of his account and he comes out and admits it, there's no crime. There is no crime. But yet, Cohen is going to go to Mueller and tell them this, and Mueller's going to try to build that into a case for impeachment. That's the whole goal of this. The goal of this investigation has nothing to do with justice or what is right and wrong. The whole goal of this whole investigation is to get Trump. And if Cohen can do that, then Mueller's fine with whatever Cohen needs. Cohen is a weasel. He's a weasel. And I've seen the guy, and I've done the research on Cohen. If he's not connected, I would be extremely surprised. Trump doesn't call him his attorney. He calls him the fixer. I guess you can interpret that any way you want. When they invaded his office and confiscated all of that, they had hundreds of secretly recorded conversations between Cohen and his clients, including Trump. See what I mean? Weasel. Attorneys are not supposed to keep that information. The only reason you would do that is A, if you're doing something illegal, or B, you're using it for blackmail. Cohen would not be above either one of those. Now, as I have been going through this, and I've been talking endlessly now, every time I talk about this, I talk about or the Clinton Foundation or Hillary Clinton or the Mueller investigation. Anytime I talk about any of that, like when I was talking on Facebook about Facebook today, there is a dual system of justice in this country, and it's been going on for a while. Ask any black male in prison, and they will tell you there are two types of justice: one for the people who have money, and one for the people who don't. And the majority of the people in prison are black because the majority of the blacks don't have the money. It's a fact. We've known this for years. The only reason it's making headlines now is because now it's in our government. And we're not talking about black and white. We're talking about the ones that have money and the ones that don't. And they are bastardizing the whole system. I saw something on a media site, and it said, "I am tired of wasting watching my taxes being wasted on trying to dig up something on Trump that's not there, when we have facts right now for free that could put Hillary in prison, and that's not being pursued." That's exactly right. That's a great example of justice not happening. Now, I had another article here. It's called "When Justice is Partial." Now, I have been watching this journalist for the Wall Street Journal, and I like her stuff. Her name is Kimberly Strassel. She usually appears on Fridays in the op-ed page of the Wall Street Journal. Read her stuff. I'm not sure if I think she's conservative, but she does a good job. She's thorough, and she tries to present both sides. Now, I want to go through here and just point out a few things. U.S. Attorney Robert Khuzami took a few moments in his Tuesday statement about Michael Cohen's plea deal to sing neutrality's praise. His day of reckoning serves as a reminder that we are a nation of laws with one set of rules that applies equally to everyone. Well, that's a lie. Noble words, and they used to mean something, but a disparity of justice is at the heart of our current crisis of faith and institutions. She continues, Americans aren't outraged that the Federal Bureau of Investigation felt obliged to investigate allegations leveled at campaigns, or that a special counsel is looking at Russian electoral interference. They are instead furious that Lady Justice seems to have it in for only one side. Amen, brother. Amen. Now, she goes on, there's another sentence in here. She says, Mueller, who is the one leading the investigation of the Trump thing, Mueller is determined to sniff out any wrongdoing he can find on one side. Now, without going too much into detail, there is collusion, by the way. And I've gone into detail on this on several shows. We know for a fact that Hillary Clinton colluded with the Russians and the Brits on the P file. We know for a fact that Hillary Clinton accepted bribery from a Canadian company, from the Russians, from Saudi Arabia, and several other Middle Eastern countries. We know that as a fact when she was Secretary of State. No question. We know for a fact that Bill Clinton accepted bribery in the form of speaking fees, $500,000 for a half-hour speech from Russia. We know this to be a fact. We know for a fact that the committee that Hillary was chairing approved the sale of 20% of our country's uranium, which is a military asset. That's what you need that to make nuclear weapons. She sold 20% of that for nothing to the Russian government. Oh, and did I mention that in the process of doing, just before that happened, she received over $120 million for the Clinton Foundation? Yeah, we know for a fact that happened. We know for a fact that these things happened and nothing has happened. And after a year and a half of investigating Trump, we know there's no collusion. There's no there. That's a big nothing burger. And any other phrases I could think of. And yet, drip, 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 day in and day out. There's no justice. There is no justice left in this country because the liberals have bastardized it so bad. And unless they find a way to do it, I can promise you this. None of these people are going to end up in prison, and they all deserve to be there. Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, James Comey, Robert Mueller, Rosenstein, Valerie Jarrett, the head of the IRS under Obama. There's a dozen of them. We know for a fact that they committed felonies, and not one of them is going to see the inside of a prison. Not one. But we already know Paul Manafort has been in solitary confinement for 6 months, 23 hours a day, for income tax. That is so wrong. That is so wrong. He's already been to prison. Hillary Clinton has been committing felonies for years, and we've known it, and she's still not in there. They just found out about Manafort 8-10 months ago, and he's already spent 6 months in prison. Do you see the difference? There is no justice anymore. And I'm going to tie these stories together. Now, I want you to think about this. When the liberals are involved and there's no justice, okay, and the social media now want me to register, so they have my name, address, what I look like, my password to my account, all of my social media information, and they've got that on me. What's going to keep them from coming after me and creating what they did on Cohen, making my life miserable, driving me to court, breaking me financially, making me lose everything just because they can, ruining the lives of my family and friends just because they can, because I choose to make a conscious decision to talk about the things that are important to us conservatives. And because I exercise my rights to do that, that's going to happen. That time's coming. That's why I'm never going to register. If they come to me and say, if you don't register, you can't have your site. Okay, take my site. I'll take my money somewhere else. But the bad news is eventually everybody's going to be doing that. There is no justice. There is no fairness. There is no right and wrong. All there is now is who's in charge, and whatever they want is going to happen. I think, from my standpoint, I have rethought, and I'm sorry about a decision that I made. When Obama was in office, he wanted to take the internet and put it under the government's control, as just like a utility. And I jumped up and down and said, no, 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 we don't want that. Well, he didn't get that. He got it. Well, actually, he did by executive order, which was fine. Trump just eliminated it. But here's why I've changed my mind. Had that happened, now the Constitution says they cannot impinge my right to free speech. They cannot shadow ban my accounts. They cannot eliminate my accounts unless I've broken the law. Now the Constitution applies wholly, directly, and firmly against the government and in my rights. Because they're a private company, now my rights don't matter. I was wrong about that. They would have regulated the heck out of it, and the cost would have gone up, and there would have been other things involved. But my freedom of speech would not have been impaired like it is now. And for that, I was wrong about that. I made a bad choice, and I wish we could do that over. Well, that's a program, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. I would like to ask you to go to my website, and if you like it, bookmark it so you can get there regularly, because I know it's a long name to remember, but that's the name of our ministry, prayerboxministry.org. Now, that website has been designed and has become an interactive website. We've got commentaries on the Bible over there that I'm in the process of writing. We do a Bible study class every week that's videoed over there. You can have somebody read the Bible to you chapter by chapter. All the programs from the Right Wing Reverend are on there. The programs from this show are on there. There's lots to do over there. There's a question and answer video section over there. You can join a prayer group. We have a newsletter, all kinds of stuff you can do over there. Go over there and check us out, prayerboxministry.org. And next week, when we come back, I'll tell you how this experiment went. So you guys have a blessed week, and I look forward to next week when we can sit down and talk about this week in politics.